So Kristen Deborah Modafferi, born June 1st, 79, disappeared June 23rd, 97. An American woman who at the age of 18 in the early summer of 97 disappeared in mysterious circumstances after leaving her work at the Crocker Galleria Mall in San Fran, California. The soon-to-be college sophomore at North Carolina State was spending the summer in the Bay Area. Modafferi had relocated from her native North Carolina to Oakland only recently and was expected to start summer photography classes at UC Berkeley on the day after she vanished. See, that's another problem. I mean, that's kind of coincidental, isn't it? So she vanishes literally the day before her schedule changes and she starts classes. Yeah, that's tough. In 2000, Kristen's law was signed by President Bill Clinton to provide assistance to police department and family of missing persons over the age of 17. The law authorized the annual sequestering of $1 million for the support of missing persons organizations, including the National Center for Missing Adults. Federal funding for Kristen's law ran out in 2005 after the law's expiration. As of 2022, Modafferi's case remains unsolved. Background: she was born in Danbury, Connecticut, raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. In 97, after having completed her freshman year at North Carolina State on a Park Scholarship, she traveled alone to the San Fran Bay Area for the summer to study photography at University of California, Berkeley. She used Craigslist to find a room in a house on Jane Avenue in Oakland, where she had 4 male roommates. Anybody think that's kind of weird? Not just the 4 male roommates, but using Craigslist, kind of notorious for seedy characters. She found part-time employment at San Fran Museum of Modern Art and a full-time job at Spinelli's coffee shop in the Crocker Galleria Mall in San Fran's financial district. Disappearance on the afternoon of June 23rd, 3 weeks after her 18th birthday. Modafferi concluded her shift at Spinelli's at 3 p.m. She indicated to coworkers that she considered visiting Baker Beach that afternoon to potentially attend a party. At around 45 minutes after her shift ended, coworkers from Spinelli's saw Modafferi with an unidentified blonde woman on the second floor of the Galleria. The woman has never been identified, and she has yet to step forward. Video surveillance last caught Modafferi withdrawing cash from a Wells Fargo ATM. Search efforts. Modafferi failed to attend the first day of her photography class at UC Berkeley June 24th, a course for which she had already paid $925 in tuition. Additionally, she left a $400 check at Spinelli's unclaimed. Her roommates noted that Modafferi did not return the night of the 23rd, but they did not report her as missing. Several days later, after Modafferi's father left a voicemail on the house's landline, one of her roommates returned his call and informed him nobody at the house had seen her for 3 days. That's the other thing that's kind of weird. Yeah, okay, she doesn't come home at night. Did she party a lot? Or even if not, they don't know her. Maybe she parties, maybe she doesn't. Like, one day you could say that might not be kind of strange, but after 3 days of not returning, I mean, what are they thinking? Or are they just all stoners? Modafferi's parents then flew to San Fran Friday, June 27th, reported their daughter missing to the Oakland Police Department. Law enforcement, however, initially considered Modafferi a runaway and did not begin investigating until Monday the 30th. Wow, they lost so much time there. A $50,000 reward was set for any info leading to Modafferi's return, and a PI was hired by the Modafferi family. Police bloodhounds traced Modafferi's scent to the Muni 38 Geary bus from a bus stop outside the Galleria. Her trail was also noted by the bloodhounds near the end of the bus route at Sutro Heights Park, but her scent was lost near there. How good is this scent? So many days. What is this, 6 days? Over 6 days after she disappeared, they still picked up her scent? Outdoors? How accurate is that? I mean, maybe it's accurate, but that's crazy. So, okay, so this is 97. So, unfortunately, there aren't security cams everywhere, but you would think that there was some, especially in some of these high, I mean, this is the financial district. I mean, you would think there would be some. I mean, they do have her on ATM. I actually can't even find the ATM image. Some people are even saying that's a red herring. Let's go to, let's continue here. The Modafferis found a Bay Guardian newspaper stuffed in a trash can in Kristen's room with a personal ad circled, which read, Friends, female seeking friends to share activities who enjoy music, photography, working out, walks, coffee, or simply the beach, exploring the Bay Area. Interested? Call me. Law enforcement was unable to locate the individual who had placed the ad, as the newspaper had purged their backlog for that week, and there is no indication that Modafferi responded to the ad. Some people actually think that she placed the ad, but I don't know. I think that was even mentioned on the Unsolved Mysteries episode on this case. John Onuma. On July 10th, 97, a man phoned KGO-TV claiming that Modafferi was murdered by two women and her body disposed of under a wooden bridge near Point Reyes. The caller was ID'd as 36-year-old John Onuma, who lived near the Galleria. Onuma told police he had falsely implicated the women as he felt they were conspiring to get his girlfriend, Jill Lampo, fired from her job at the local YMCA where they also worked. Onuma denied having ever met Modafferi. Searches of Onuma's apartments revealed sizable amounts of blood, although it was later determined by DNA testing to be that of a cat. Well, that's still disturbing. It was discovered that Onuma had previously placed personal advertisements for women in the Bay Area and coerced them into sex. Onuma relocated to his native Hawaii in 99. What does coerced mean? Is that according to them, so they didn't want to press charges? Like, what's going on there? Later developments. In 2015, an independent search of the house Modafferi had been living in when she disappeared was completed. It took them that long? During the search, a cadaver dog with a world-class reputation alerted to the presence of human remains in the basement. Paul Dosti, a former Mammoth Lakes police sergeant and owner of the dog, suggested that Oakland police excavate a concrete slab in the basement and proposed that Modafferi's roommates at the time be re-interviewed by law enforcement. Dr. Arpad Voss, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Tennessee, visited the house in February 2017 and scanned the area with a proprietary device he developed which detects human decomposition chemicals. The device pinpointed between 274 Jane Avenue and the house next door, 278 Jane Avenue. Dosti stated that the results of the searches likely indicated a crime scene rather than a burial. Aside from the concrete slab, the home's basement floor consists of hard-packed clay, which would be difficult to dig with a standard shovel. Additionally, a chemical signature denoting the presence of human blood was discovered near a concrete slab at the base of the porch steps at the 278 Jane Avenue residence, according to Dosti and Voss. DNA testing revealed that the decomposing material matched that of Bob and Debbie Modafferi, who had provided samples for testing. In response to the findings of Dosti and Voss, the Oakland Police's public info officer, Felicia Eisthorpe, stated that their findings needed to be confirmed by the city police and claimed the info had yet to be delivered to the police department. At this time, the info we need from Dr. Voss to collect samples for his human decomposition testing has not been forwarded to the department. Additionally, no info regarding the more recent blood testing conducted on the porch has been disclosed to the department. Dosti and Voss denied this to be the case, stating that the Oakland Police Department had enough data to undertake their own tests. Voss stated all OPD needs to do is bring their own dogs to the site and see what happens. Voss wrote in an email earlier this month, I am quite sure that Paul also told OPD how to look for human-specific VOCs, volatile organic compounds, in collected soil samples. All you need is a GCMS, a gas chromatograph coupled with a mass spectrometer, which every university or crime lab in the world would have. The procedure is very straightforward. Wait, so they never actually did this? Like, what is going on with the Oakland Popo? This is really weird. So did they really forward the info and Oakland said they didn't? Or did they not? And we're just trying to lure them to do additional testings, which why not do the test? I mean, yeah, this is really weird. And why is there no new info on any of this? I mean, this is all from years ago now. June 22nd, 2018, potential lead in the Kristen Modafferi cold case goes uninvestigated, San Francisco Chronicle. I mean, this is weird. What does everybody make of this? I mean, I don't know why people are trying to connect this to the Scott Peterson case. I mean, it seems like there's enough shady individuals around her in that area where we don't necessarily need to bring Scott Peterson to this. And unlike, I mean, with Kristen Smart, I mean, if he really did go to school with her and he possibly even dated her, okay, there's a connection. But here with Modafferi, I mean, there really doesn't seem to be anything connecting to Peterson. But the case is obviously curious in its own right. I mean, it's just really weird. Let's go into some more details here. Kristen's father also thinks that John Onema and his then girlfriend Jill Lampo are hiding something. He made the statement to ABC News. Apparently, there were also pages ripped out of Onema's girlfriend's diary that supposedly implicated Onema. And again, in a lot of cases, there's always scumbags that, say this to if they're abusing their girlfriend or whatever, emotional or physical abuse, they say that they did something to a famous missing person just to make them scared. There's a lot of scumbags out there. That doesn't mean they actually did it, obviously. But if they did, I mean, I don't know. If they did, would it be less likely that they would say it like that? I mean, it's all quite weird. Here's a very, very detailed write-up on the Unsolved Mysteries subreddit by User Since Deleted, which has a lot of interesting information. So apparently Kristen had moved into the 274 Jane Avenue address with the 4 roommates, possibly 3 roommates, 2 brothers, another male, and the male's girlfriend. I don't know. Different sources say different things. So she moved in June 1st, 97. So she was there for approximately 22 days. And that's when she started working at Spinelli's Coffee in Crocker Galleria. And also the Cafe Musée in the San Fran Museum of Modern Art during the weekends. On June 23rd, 97 at 3 p.m., Kristen finished the shift at Spinelli's, was reported to have asked one of her coworkers for directions to Baker Beach. Kristen was reported to have been seen by 2 of her coworkers in the company of a blonde woman, never identified, on the 2nd floor of the mall, up to 45 minutes after Kristen clocked out of work. Because my initial thought regarding the blonde woman, was it just someone who asked for the time or who maybe she just ran into, said hi, whatever? But apparently, according to the manager, Kristen always leaves immediately. She doesn't hang around. So she's hanging around 45 minutes after. I mean, and also some of the witnesses said that she was walking with the woman as if they were together and knew each other, etc. Not just like a brief one-question encounter. So that makes it pretty suspicious. That was the last confirmed sighting of her. Also, like, a lot of these other sources aren't mentioning the ATM. Is the ATM alleged? Is there even a real ATM image? On the Unsolved Mysteries.fandom.com site, it states that John Onema on July 10th, 97, called the ABC affiliate KGO and stated that 2 lesbians had kidnapped Kristen, killed her, and dumped her body under a bridge in the Point Reyes area of Marin County. 3 other women came forward and claimed that John abused and tortured women. They also discovered that he often met women through personal ads like the one that Kristen placed. He also reportedly used other women to lure women to him. They suspected that the blonde woman may have been an associate of his. When they questioned one of his female victims, she said that he mentioned Kristen in a threat, stating that, quote, "the same thing that happened to her could happen to you," end quote. I mean, I don't know, that's not 100% direct, though. That doesn't mean he harmed Kristen. That just means he might harm her the same way Kristen was harmed. Finally, when police searched John's girlfriend's apartment, they found that her diary had pages ripped out of it that were written around the time that Kristen vanished. She said that he had ripped them out and that the info may have been incriminating. However, he took a poly and claimed that he passed. So police did not verify that he passed the polygraph. That was just him stating that. Police never had enough evidence to arrest him, so he was set free. Okay. That's kind of weird. What does everybody make of this case so far? I mean, forget the Scott Peterson connection. I mean, this case is very problematic in its own right. I mean, seemingly there's a lot of information here. What kind of a weirdo would call a radio station, though, and like try to implicate women that are making problems for his girlfriend who he himself might be abusing? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. All allegedly, of course. So let's look at the cadaver dog issues. Bloodhound dogs, rather. Bloodhounds were used to track Kristen's scent from the mall to the Geary Street number 38 bus stop near the mall where she was last seen. This is notable because that bus does drop off near Land's End Lookout, which is located within a few miles of Baker Beach, where she had previously asked for directions. Additionally, between Land's End and the area of Geary Beach closer to the mall, there may have been several other stops. I don't know if there would be the same today as there were in 97 that would have been within 1 mile. I'll assume walking distance of Baker Beach. The bloodhounds were said to have picked up the scent again at the beach. However, jumping back over to a Reader's Digest article from the Find Kristen website and the rebuttal or correction page, there are mentions that investigators traced the scent to Sutro Baths, which is located nearly adjacent to Land's End on the opposite side of Baker Beach. On the rebuttal page, there is mention that Kristen attended a party near the caves of Land's End Beach area 2 days prior to her disappearance, celebrating the summer solstice on June 21st, 97, and that may have actually been the scent trail the dogs followed and led investigators to which ending when they reached the beach. It is mentioned that there was some potentially dangerous water in the area. This site goes on to mention that John Onema lived within a few blocks of the bus stop that the bloodhounds led investigators to. I can find no mention of the party or location John Onema was staying during this time elsewhere. The site also mentions several other pieces of circumstantial evidence that seem to link John Onema to the case. Okay, this is kind of weird though. So was he at the party at the Cave of Land's End Beach area for the summer solstice? And if it's summer solstice, does that open up to some kind of cult connections? I mean, there's obviously a lot of cult activity in San Fran. Yeah, this is all pretty weird. I don't see a source here. Is this the PI? They did not know it at the time, but that punk Onema lived just a few blocks further on past the bus stop. In reality, it is very possible that Kristen and the blonde-haired woman had left Spinelli's and walked to John Onema's place where he was freeloading off of Jill Lampo. Sergeant Bradley really wishes he could redo that bloodhound scent because they never would have stopped the tracking at the bus stop. So they just assumed she got on the bus at the bus stop? That's kind of weird. The other thing I want to point out here, even if Onema is not responsible, is it some other shady characters who saw that ad? Or if it's not her ad, she responded to it, or it is her. I mean, who knows? But yeah, this is all kind of weird. But was she set up by a woman? I mean, this is involving photography. Who knows what they were talking about? But was she kind of set up? But how could she be? She was talking with that woman 45 minutes after. So what is this sighting? So they saw her leave, and then they're not paying attention, and they randomly see her on the second floor 45 minutes later with the blonde woman? Or is that I mean, I would think they could have narrowed it down whether it was a made-up sighting because multiple people said they saw her. So those were the co-workers. So if there's an issue at that workplace, did any other people in the mall confirm that they saw a woman, or at least a woman that looked like her, talking to a blonde woman? And there's really zero cameras anywhere in that entire area in 90. I know it's 97, but still, financial district. I mean, there's some high-end places they did have. If you haven't checked out the Amy Mihalovic podcast, I mean, there were security cameras at the mall in the 70s. Or in the 80s, rather. They started using security in the 70s, security systems, but obviously, you know, there's not a lot of places that had it in the 70s. Or even the early 80s. But by the late 80s, they did have security footage. Now we're in the late 90s, you know, so there's clearly some. You would think they would have searched, you know, pretty far and wide to try to find something. some posters here. I agree that the roommates and their associates at the time need to be looked into a lot more closely, as do the landlord and anyone else who might have had access to the property. If taken at face value, then the cadaver dogs hit in the basement are and remain the only physical evidence in this case and point decidedly towards foul play at the part of someone intimately familiar with and more than likely residing at the rental house where Kristen lived. The other thing, I can't shake that there might be a connection to this party at the caves. Who was there at the party? How big was that party? Did she kind of meet people there, or were people interested in her in some capacity? Then, of course, there's connections to the ad, possible photography connections. And then Onuma and possible connections there. Yeah, it's tough. This is pretty tough. Other people simply think that she did make her way to the beach and somehow fell into the ocean and was never found. So is the blonde woman the red herring? It would be easier to dismiss it as a red herring if it wasn't 45 minutes after her shift ended. And why is the Oakland Popo not actually doing real investigation? Because why not rule out any kind of possible evidence at her home or the home next to her home? For the people that want to write off Onuma and his girlfriend completely, though, here's a post on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit 6 years ago by Sydney Vicious, referencing, and this is from the PI family website that really go after Onuma, so I don't know if I don't know if this has been independently verified, but June 2012, it states the following: on about June 4th, Jill called and asked to speak to Anthony. She tells Anthony that her health is very poor and she's getting these indications that she needs to confess things about her life, and she tells Anthony that she thinks she is the one she is supposed to confide in. Thus begins a 3-hour phone convo. Anthony grabs a pen and paper, starts taking notes. When he hangs up, he turns to his wife and says, "Jill just told me enough to put her away for life." Kristen caught a huge break here because luckily Kelly Romo is a hero's hero. She immediately knew this was very important and made copies of her husband's notes and sent them to me. I, in turn, sent them to Oakland PD and the FBI. Much of Anthony's notes had to deal with other aspects of Jill's life and therefore not relevant to this case. Below, however, is an important excerpt of a conversation. Jill tells her uncle that she got involved with a controlling man who convinced her to assist in an unspeakable kidnap and murder. Have they looked into this? It sounds very much like she helped in the murder of Kristen. Huh. In a newer report where she got interviewed, she claimed she had nothing to do with it and she was at the library when Kristen went missing. And that's kind of a random place to be, but okay, has that been verified? Is there any kind of security footage or people who identified her at the library for a certain window? So basically, what we're left with is, obviously more tests need to be done. I don't know why they haven't been done at the home where the biological material was found, the blood allegedly matching found, all of these things. So I actually found one more highly mind-shocking detail in the Modafferi case. This might be a bridge too far for me. We'll see what the coincidence theorists make of this. Here's another article. This is by Mike Moffitt, June 21st, 2018. SF Gate, what happened to Kristen Modafferi, one man's 20-year search for answers in San Fran cold case. The trail has gone cold for Dennis Mahone and his 20-year quest to find out what happened to Kristen Modafferi, but he's not about to give up. Modafferi is the subject of one of the most frustrating missing persons cases in San Fran history. Ever since the vivacious 18-year-old college student disappeared, Mahone, who's not in law enforcement but is a friend of the family, has chased clues and followed leads like the most dedicated gumshoe. On June 23rd, 97, one day before her summer photography course began at UC Berkeley, Kristen was working at her temp job as a barista at Spinelli's coffee shop in Crocker Galleria, a shopping center in the city's financial district. Her shift ended at 3 p.m., but coworkers noticed her talking to an unidentified blonde woman in the Galleria's second floor 45 minutes later. That was the last time anybody recalls seeing Kristen. The disappearance of the young North Carolina State student naturally was big news in her hometown of Charlotte. Mahone, who worked in a homeless shelter there, felt compelled to help even though he had never met Kristen. After 3.5 months of following the case, Mahone got her parents' blessing to assist in the search. He traveled to San Fran and hit the streets, handing out and posting flyers to get the word out. He had money saved up, a house in Charlotte, and a promise from his boss that his job would be waiting for him when he returned, so he could afford to take an extended leave of absence. Besides, Kristen would shortly turn up before too long. Little did Mahone realize he'd be making a big commitment spanning 2 decades. I never thought it was going to be this long, Mahone said. I always thought that I was going to run into somebody who knew her, or the cops were going to find her, or she was going to show up somewhere. I remember in the early days, it was, okay, I just stay another week, I'll just stay another week. The next thing you know, the months and the years just accumulated. Even though he was relatively well off, Mahone couldn't afford to stay at motels for weeks on end, so he slept in his van and joined a $35 per month gym just so he could shower. During the day, he stood on street corners with a poster covered with pictures of the young college student with the bright smile and big dimples. In the years that followed, Mahone has driven throughout Northern California, interviewed dozens of people, and flown to Hawaii and Thailand to track down leads. Man, this guy's like more dedicated than any police officer. He's blogged about Kristen and created numerous podcasts on the case. Despite all his efforts, nothing has ever panned out. In all likelihood, someone killed Kristen, and that person could still be out there keeping a dark secret. A party at Baker Beach, ? Where did Kristen go after work? A Spinelli's coworker remembered that she asked for directions to Baker Beach and may have been intending to go to a party. Now, if I didn't interject earlier, has that been verified by anybody else other than this one coworker? Not to cast doubt on the coworker, but if a coworker was responsible, would they say something like that to get everybody off track? When she left the Galleria, Kristen was wearing a black Spinelli's t-shirt, a long-sleeved blue plaid flannel shirt, tan pants, and a possibly high-top Fly London sneakers. She had a green JanSport backpack with a couple of library books inside. Bloodhounds would later track her scent to the Muni 38 Geary bus from the stop outside the Galleria. Her trail was also picked up near the end of the bus route at Sutro Heights Park, but the dogs lost it along the beach beyond the Sutro Baths ruins. Authorities have never determined if she actually attended the party or even if there was a party. See, how could they not have, though? Like, you can't interview all the people in the area to know whether they did have a party there, or if they did they deny it because she was there and something happened at that party? But we're about to get really deep into Mindshock land here. Could Kristen have made it back to Oakland where she was staying in a rented house on Jane Avenue before she disappeared? Her roommates were frequently out of the house and might not have seen her if she had. The roommates at the house, 4 young men, said they were not alarmed that she didn't show up the night of the 23rd, thinking she might have met a guy or stayed over at a friend's. But after Kristen's father, Bob Modafferi, called the house and left a message for Kristen to call home, one of her roommates telephoned him to let him know that they had not seen her for 3 days. She had not shown up for the class that she was so excited to be taking. Now very worried, Bob Modafferi and his wife Debbie jumped on a plane to San Fran and upon landing made a beeline for Oakland Police Headquarters. But it was a Friday afternoon and the officers assigned to her case were going home for the weekend. The desk officer did not seem concerned. To him, Kristen was just another runaway. Meanwhile, precious hours were slipping away. By the time police got back to work on the case on Monday, June 30th, Kristen had been missing for almost a week. So we didn't have that detail? I mean, this is insane. So these scum that call themselves police officers, there's a missing human being here. And they're just going home on a Friday. I mean, how are there no other officers? I mean, is the police force not 24/7 in San Fran? I mean, now I don't even know if they have a police force now. But back in 97, did they not have a certain amount of police officers available to actually protect and serve as they swore an oath to do? And they're just taking the weekend off? I mean, if this is all true, can anybody defend these scum? I mean, this is insane. This is somebody's child. This is insane. Now, I mean, wow. I don't even know what to make of that. Rarely am I left speechless by the actions of police. But, I mean, this is something new. And the other thing, too. Why, like, okay, if you have any kind of morals whatsoever as a police officer, why would you brush everything off as runaway by default, even if you believe it's true, even if statistically it's the most likely scenario? If it's not, and it was foul play, I mean, how does you investigate it as if it's foul play, and then you find out it's a runaway? Okay, who's going to regret the investigation? Because what if it wasn't a runaway? I mean, wow. I mean, does protect and serve have no meaning anymore? It's just, this is insane. If that they just took the weekend off, so these panicked parents show up on Friday, and the police are like, it's the weekend. It's the weekend. We'll check it out on Monday. I mean, this lab. I mean, wow. I wonder what those officers would think if one of their family members were kidnapped and being held somewhere. And, other investigators just took the weekend off instead of actually trying to help find them. I mean, this is insane. I mean, this is just unconscionable. The ad in the Bay Guardian. When the Modafferi searched Kristen's room, they found a Bay Guardian stuffed in a trash can with a personal ad circled. The ad read, "Friends, female seeking friends to share activities who enjoy music, photography, working out, walks, coffee, or simply the beach exploring the Bay Area. Interested, call me." Detectives later tried to find the name of the person who took out the ad, but they were unsuccessful. The Bay Guardian had already purged the info, apparently in a routine housekeeping function. See, that's a little sketchy, too. It doesn't say when they tried to find that out. But maybe if they hadn't taken the first weekend off, I mean, who knows? Police still don't know if Kristen placed the ad, if she responded to it, or if it simply piqued her interest enough to highlight it. The lesbian love triangle tip. For years, a man who lived about a mile from the Crocker Galleria has been on the police's radar after he called KGO-TV with a tip about Kristen. His story was that two women killed Kristen in a lesbian love triangle, remembered former ABC 7 News assignment manager Bill McGee, who took the call on July 10th. He went into a lot of detail about who they were, names, places. The man said Kristen's body was dumped from a wooden bridge near Point Reyes. Police determined that John Onema, a short 36-year-old man with hair down to his waist, made the call. At first, he denied being the tipster, but then admitted to it. Here's another thing, too. Do people think if this guy... Why did they mention that he was short here with hair down to his waist? Are they kind of alleging that he could have posed as the blonde woman she was seen with? I mean, I don't know. That seems kind of weird. His information was bogus. Police cleared the women and who Onema believed had conspired to have his then-girlfriend, Jill Lampo, fired. In a 2003 Reader's Digest article, former Oakland police officer Patrick Mahaney, who worked the case, was quoted as saying, "He gave us too many details. When people do that, we know they're not giving us a tip, they're telling us a story." Mahaney and his fellow investigator Sergeant John Bradley looked into the Onema's background and eventually found several Bay Area women who had responded to classified ads placed by Onema. They claimed he had tried to coerce them into sex or steal money from them, but they had not reported him because they feared retaliation. Wait. Did they ever verify that Onema was the one who placed the ads? Or this is the story that they responded to ads placed by him, but... Wow. Okay, America's Most Wanted. In 1999, Onema was featured in an episode of Fox Television's popular crime series, America's Most Wanted. The show presented the three women who claimed they were held against their will and tortured by him. The alleged torture supposedly included sleep deprivation and being burned. So wait a second, did they not actually ever press charges? Like, this is kind of a weird thing. On the TV show, one of the women called Onema a human vampire. Another said she was his sex slave, and a third said he beat her when she tried to escape. One of them quoted Onema as saying, "You know I'm going to have to kill you. I can't let you go. Now you know what happened to Kristen Modafferi." Contacted by ABC 7 last year, Onema said he regretted calling the newsroom. "I put the attention on me when I shouldn't have, and I screwed up," he said. "I took the focus off the investigation." Oakland police say Onema, who now reportedly lives in Hawaii, is not a suspect in the case but remains a person of interest. Efforts to reach him for comment on the case were unsuccessful. Okay, now here we're going to get to a coincidental curiosity that just, it might be a bridge or 10 too far. Jill Lampo's ex. Onema's one-time girlfriend, Jill Lampo, was never a suspect, but she had an interesting connection to Kristen. Mahone said Lampo told him that just before she began dating Onema, she broke up with a man named Matthew Luke, who was a close friend of one of Kristen's co-workers at Spinelli's, Kelly Strathman. Mahone said he called Luke, whose name was given to him by a Spinelli's employee, to see if he could get contact info for Strathman. But when Mahone mentioned Kristen's name, Luke became very hostile and told me to never call him again. Mahone said Luke eventually worked at Spinelli's as well, but after Kristen disappeared. Okay, so what does everybody make of this curiosity? So statistically, in 1997, San Francisco population was 740,993 people. Everybody still with me? Oakland population 366,224 people. And then however many hundreds of thousands you want to add just in the surrounding area, because even though Kristen worked at the Galleria, she lived in Oakland. So we're looking at over 1 million people in this area. So the San Francisco metro area population, actually the entire metro area population, over 3 million, 3,151 people in 1997. So we're looking at 1 to 3 million people in the vicinity. Millions of people. So out of these millions, the guy that calls the radio station with this tip, his girlfriend, who they're living less than a mile from the Galleria, his girlfriend's ex is a good friend of Kristen Modafferi's coworker. And keep in mind, I mean, this is not the only coffee shop business in San Francisco in 97. So out of all of these connections, now I would like to know if that was the same coworker that spotted them with the blonde woman. And here's another theory of mine. Is it possible Modafferi really did briefly just exchange a hello with either someone she knew, a blonde woman, or someone asked her a question, whatever, just in brief for 2 seconds. She didn't really know them. And then this one coworker was the only one who said that they were seen talking together and walking together as if they embellished, because they knew that any other people around, they might have seen a blonde woman in the vicinity just briefly for a 2-second interaction, and they expanded on the interaction knowing that it could be corroborated by other people. But is the coworker the only individual who said that they were walking and talking together as if they knew each other? Or is that entire story just completely made up? But why is this guy panicking when asked about Kristen? He just so happens. And the 3 other women said that Anima, tortured them in some way and kept them against their will. This guy's ex-girlfriend's ex is a co-worker with Kristen. Again, we're talking millions of people in this metro area. We're not talking about a small town where no one would bat an eye at this connection. We're talking a major city and an entire metro area of other cities around this big city where people obviously travel to and from for work. So out of millions, are we to believe this is all mere coincidence? I would say that's a huge problem. Now, here's another huge problem. Here's another very huge problem. So supposedly, 274 Jane Avenue, where Kristen lived, and the neighboring house, 278 Jane Avenue, that neighboring house is supposedly a halfway house for parole violators. Is everybody following here? So not only do we have a halfway house right next to her apartment with 4 male roommates, or 3, whatever, depending on the source. I think some even allege 5 if there was a girlfriend of one of the guys involved. But she lives next to a halfway house for parole violators, and she works less than a mile from a guy who's supposedly torturing women, whose girlfriend's ex-boyfriend is a close friend of her coworker at the Galleria. Is everyone following here? I mean, is there anything more to say at this point? I mean, this level of mind shock, this is all coincidental? I don't know. This is tough. If there's a link between one of the guys at the halfway house and John Onema, then I think the case could be solved. If not, are one of those a coincidence? I mean, the halfway house, we could maybe accept that as coincidence because there's there's other houses in the area. If none of those guys ever hurt anybody, that's not proof of anything other than the genetic material found at the house, which is a problem. If that's hers. If it's not hers, okay. Well, maybe there was another crime that was committed there at some point, maybe even prior to 97, maybe years and years prior when different people lived there. Who knows? But All the coincidences between the coworker, because we have the coworker, possibly the same coworker who said they saw her with the blonde woman. Possibly not. Close friends with the ex of the guy who calls in the tip on Kristen. Wow is all I could say there.